Well, hey there.
Good morning.
Welcome to these live stream reviews. I think we're doing about 14 or 15 reviews this time from all over the world.
Boy, howdy, we better get going.
We better get going. But before we do, there's somebody that always asks, how do I get my live stream reviewed? This is something that we do for our students. So go get access to one of our courses, and then you can get your live stream reviewed. All right, let's just jump right into it.
Jump on in.
The first one is from John from Faith Deliverance Worship Center. He says he gets a little feedback from his microphones using the Behringer X32. Let's take a listen, see what we got going on.
And cause your rain to fall on me. Everybody say, Baba, oh.
I got a couple vocals going here. I'm going to scrub forward here, see if we've got any instruments. I don't see any instruments in this live stream. Let me back out of here a little bit, go to their channel and see if we can look up another Sunday so we can get a little more.
Hey, Chad, thanks for being with us from Alabama. All right.
Here we go. We got some instruments here. All right, first thing I noticed is we're pushing the limiter a little too hard. That's that kind of like sucking in kind of sound you have going on. So take a look at your limiter. If you're probably using the precision limiter like I talk about in the course, what you need to adjust is the input gain until that limiter, the gain reduction meter on that limiter, the precision limiter, you don't want it going more than like 3 or 4 dB because that's when you start to notice it. So just decrease your input gain until that goes away. It'll sound a lot better. Kick drum can probably come down a little bit too to help combat that issue. It's overly loud anyway, so you could probably bring that input gain down on the limiter by like 3 to 6 dB, and it'll still be plenty loud enough for YouTube. Other than that, it's really sounding good.
Is that digital noise I hear or some kind of sound on the drums? That high pitch.
It's just the peaking. It's like the cymbals are peaking. I would kind of go through all of your channels and make sure that nothing's hitting red because it may be more than the limiter that's kind of maxing out here. So look at your channel level meters and just your overall live stream level meter. If anything is hitting red, then it's a problem. You need to adjust gain to get it back into the acceptable range. And just a refresher on gain, when you set gain on channels, you want to aim for that place where the green lights meet the yellow lights. Set gain there, and that usually gives you plenty of headroom. Even if those vocalists really start singing out, you won't hit red. Not always the case. Some vocals have quite the dynamic range, but usually. What do you think, Dylan?
I think it's looking good. I'd like to see less of the ceiling, though. I don't really want to see all those fluorescent lights in the shot, personally. So I would recommend you pan the camera down a little bit. And then I noticed the camera's shaking a little bit. You mostly notice when the air vents move because cameras aren't really very good at rendering stuff like that. So when the camera's bouncing, that's kind of sticking out. And I noticed that pretty quickly. So work on your mounting. Maybe you can find a better way to mount that so it's not shaking as much. I'd have to see how you have it mounted right now to give you any ideas, but I bet you could figure it out. I found this thing online not that long ago. I was just curious and did some research, and they make a shock mount for PTZ cameras, like when you're mounting them to the wall. So it's like a mount that goes on the wall, and then it has like almost like an engine mount kind of thing to get vibration out of it. So I'm wondering why more people don't use those.
Maybe they don't know that they exist.
Maybe not. It wasn't even that expensive. I feel like it was $100-something. Wasn't that bad. So look into that maybe. If you have it mounted on the wall, that's an option.
Be a good thing to try out.
I bet there's an option for like a tripod as well. Maybe like you have a special head with a shock mount on it. I'd have to look into that some more. But yeah, check into that.
Yep, check into that. Get your limiter dialed in.
Also, hey, Brian from Kenya in how do you say his name? Devaj from India.
Nice. Good to have you. All right, next up from Patrick, Monument Hill Church. He's looking for some feedback on the camera color and just the overall mix. So let's take a look and listen.
Mercy arriving again and again. Your love will find us. You're never far away. Battles behind us, battles ahead. God, you are for us, so what stands against? We have this promise that you're never far away. We see your faithfulness in the darkest night. We see your goodness, God. Favor on us.
Overall, it's a good mix. Good job. Some things that you could do to take it to the next level. Bass guitar is a little bit too loud in this mix, so bring it down. And then drums are too quiet in this mix. They need to come up quite a bit. They seem a little buried in there, and drums are what drive and gives you energy. So bring up that kick drum and that snare. Cymbals were okay in the mix. They could probably come up a little bit, but acoustic guitar sounded good. I couldn't really hear the violin. So if you were wanting that to be more prominent, bring it up in the mix. We listen to the electric guitar here.
We see your faithfulness in the darkest night.
Vocals sound good. You're mixing them well. They're EQ'd well. Electric guitar sounds good. So I'd say another thing you could do is add some, I'm not really hearing reverb. So add some reverb to this mix. If you're looking in the course, there's 3 different reverbs I recommend using. So go ahead and get those dialed in on your mixer and add them to the live stream mix. In case you don't know how to do that, you can replicate the same reverb you're using in the room in the live stream, and you can even adjust like just the overall level of how much reverb in total that you're using on the live stream. And let me see, I'm going to back out of this, Dylan, so that I can look at what mixer they're using. They're using the X32. So yeah, you're going to use those, send those effects returns to your live stream bus. That's how you get that reverb into your live stream. So use the reverb in your room. It's going to make your room sound better. Use that same reverb in your live stream, and you'll be good to go. What do you think, Dylan, about camera colors, what they wanted you to comment on?
It's the first thing I noticed is it's magenta, and I'm kind of thinking that's because of your key lighting. It kind of looks like you're using either a low quality white bulb or RGB, and you're mixing them all. That would be my guess. You might see if you can adjust the white balance a little bit to get that magenta out of the skin tones. If you look in the skin, that's where you'll see it for sure. Like, look at your skin in real life and then look at the skin on camera, and you can really tell how it's pushed towards the magenta side. So you can adjust tint on most cameras if you go to like the Kelvin setting on the white balance, or if you don't have that option on your camera, if you're using like OBS, it has an option to do that, a little effect you can add on to it. If you're using an ATEM, unfortunately it doesn't really have an option like that unless you're using a Blackmagic camera. So message me in Slack if you need help with that, but that'll really help out your image when you get that white balance figured out. But it looks good.
Can I make a comment on framing?
Sure.
Looks like you're aiming to put the faces like in the middle of the screen. And I mean, usually when it comes to framing, you want to think of it split into thirds, not in halves. So take your vertical space there and split it into thirds, and then put your faces in the upper third. And I think you're going to get a better look there. Let me back up a little bit. But even then, I mean, that's not like a hard and fast rule. It's just like I think most people lean towards putting things right in the middle because we like things in the middle, you know? So, yeah.
Unless their goal is to get the back of heads out of the shot in the bottom.
Yeah. I'd rather see the back of heads, though, than whatever.
The ceiling, yeah.
The ceiling that's up there. There's nothing interesting at the top there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When I looked at it, I just figured they didn't want the congregation in it.
And it seems like that camera's up pretty high, too. And what makes me wonder if it's a PTZ that's mounted to the wall. I mean, if I was going to reframe this shot, I would like bring the camera down, not like tilt it down. Wouldn't you say that? Like bring the tripod down to where it's not so high.
Yeah, ideally, unless that's not an option.
Yeah. Then you tilt, right?
Then you tilt.
Cool. Thanks for sending that in.
Can you teach me how to make bass round in live stream?
Bass round in live stream. I would say that's usually how you're compressing the bass. The bass is all about compression so that it kind of like gives you that steady tone throughout the entire mix. So you're going to compress it a lot harder than like you'd compress a vocal. It's okay to be like when you're setting the threshold for the compressor on a bass guitar, you could be hitting like -9, -12 on bass guitar. Whereas if you did that on a vocal, it would sound terrible, but on bass guitar, it sounds good. You may just need to use the makeup gain on the compressor to get your level back up for the bass where you need it to go. And usually that does the trick. So I would give that a shot first, and also mess with your ratio on the compressor and try like a higher ratio and see if that gets you the result that you're looking for. It's all a matter of taste. So just fiddle with the ratio setting and the threshold, and I think you'll get the sound that you're looking for. All right, next up from Roy, Living Faith Ministries. Sound is not good in the live stream. You can hear singers, but you can't hear the instruments. All right, well, let's take a listen, see what we got going on.
Many exciting things are happening here in our ministry. Yesterday, we had the pleasure of congratulating our
See if I can find where they're singing here.
Days. He can do the impossible. Come back to unison, sing oh. Let's try 3 parts. Get to know Jesus. Yeah, y'all got it. Sing oh. Get to know Jesus. Let's go back to the part I heard. I heard he healed the sick.
All right, so I'm hearing some distortion, first of all, and it's hard without me being there, knowing where exactly that's coming from. But what you need to check is the gain on all of your channels. Make sure that none of your channels are hitting in the red on those level meters. And then you need to chase that all the way down to the live stream, because let's say you're using an audio interface for your live stream to connect your mixer to your computer, it could be peaking there. So you need to look at the level meter on your audio interface if that's the case. You need to look at the level meter on your overall live stream bus. Somewhere we're hitting red, and you need to figure out where that is and make adjustments so that it's no longer going into the red, because it'll always sound distorted if that's the case. I was also noticing that the vocals, they just sound a little heavy in the low end, so they need to be EQ'd a little bit. So I would go through the vocal lesson in the course and apply EQ as I talk about there, where you're shaving off those low mids until you get a nice clean vocal that still has warmth. Just a couple quick tips for that. You need to go watch the video, but couple quick tips is around the 500, 600 hertz range is usually not a pleasant range for a vocal. So you can apply a PEQ filter there with a Q of about 3 or 4, and you can cut it 6 to even 9 dB if you need to. 6 dB is a good rule of thumb. And then I'd also put a low shelving filter and place that around 800 hertz, and I would use that as my thinner. And then you just kind of dial that back down. I mean, even 1 dB on that filter can make the biggest difference in a vocal. But if you have to go down to 3 dB, like just whatever it takes to bring clarity to the vocal, but just don't go overboard, because then it'll lose its warmth. You want it to be warm and clear. So that's the goal, and shaving off those low mids is the way that you get there. One more thing I'm going to give you is to add reverb to this mix. That's going to bring the mix to life. Go through the reverb lessons on the course, add a plate reverb to those vocals, as well as a hall reverb. It's going to make them sound a lot better. And I could hear the instruments in here. I know you said you couldn't hear the instruments. They could come up a little bit as far as the balance between the vocals and the instruments. So that's just a level adjustment for your live stream. I'd say you probably just need to bring your vocals down so that your instruments can shine a little bit more. What do you think, Dylan?
I think the framing's good. There's not like too much ceiling in there. I think you could probably even like try taking all of the ceiling out if you wanted to try that. Really the only thing I'm noticing is a light limitation. Like there's some pretty big hot spots on the stage just because you're working with overhead lighting. And obviously you'd have to kind of overhaul things to improve that. So understandable, but you could just bump your exposure down just a little bit just to compensate for some of that stuff being really bright. Just make sure it doesn't make the shadows too dark. It's a tough balance. I get it. I would definitely invest in some key lights when you're able to that are, shooting at their faces instead of from above. But I think with what you're working with, it looks good. Your white balance looks good. Framing is good. Great job.
I feel like it looks a little bit cloudy, so it makes me wonder if just the lens needs to be cleaned off or if maybe that's a reflection from a fluorescent light that's over the camera, which in that case, couldn't they get some kind of barn doors around the camera lens to keep that from happening?
Yeah, you can get a lens hood, or I don't know. It kind of just looks like the camera quality to me.
Okay.
Like it just can't handle those highlights very well.
Dylan would know. So get a better camera.
But look into cleaning the lens too. You never know. Could be dirty.
Awesome. Thanks for sending that in. Next up, well, let's answer a question here. He's asking, can you explain to me how to make difference in drums, bass, and bass guitar? So we're talking about kick drum, bass guitar.
How
do we marry them together? Sometimes you have to carve out the prominent frequency in the kick drum on the bass guitar to help them mesh together. You don't always have to do this, but sometimes you do. And so how you figure that out is you just have somebody hit the kick drum, and you're going to look at that low frequency range on the RTA, pull up the equalizer screen for the kick drum, and you're going to see where it's peaking. And that's the prominent frequency for the kick drum. So then you can go to the bass guitar, and you can add an EQ filter to kind of carve that out a little bit. Use a Q value of 4 and then or 3 probably, and then just cut it down like 3 dB or so. And you're going to find them coming together a lot better. So give that a shot. Should help you out. All right, this next one is from, let's see, kind of got lost on where I was here. Is this our fourth one? I think it's from Isaac. Yeah. End Time Message Tabernacle. Wants to know how to properly mix the sound. Awesome. Well, let's take a listen.
And they had to extract 2 of my teeth.
See if I can find some music here.
And said, where have ye laid him?
Une délivrance totale.
But Branham said in the sermon, a total deliverance.
J'espère que au paragraphe 90.
So,
La quatrième étape,
during the 4th
c'est
step,
de nager dans les
it's
bénédictions.
swimming in.
We'll find some here in a minute. Here we go. Bear with me. Trying to find some music where they're singing and playing.
We need to go with you.
Nous voulons, Seigneur Jésus, que tu
What?
puisses se révéler à nous,
Lord,
Seigneur.
that you may reveal in us, Lord.
Que tu puisses changer nos vies.
You may change our life.
Que tu puisses nous donner la vie
May
éternelle.
you give us the eternal
Que
life.
tu puisses nous donner le
That you may
Saint-Esprit.
give us the Holy Spirit.
L'Esprit de la
The
vérité.
Spirit of truth.
Seigneur Jésus.
Lord Jesus.
Il y a tes enfants qui sont ici.
That your children who are
Qui
here,
ont des soucis.
who have
Qui ont des
stress,
problèmes.
who have problems.
Dans leur maison, les choses ne vont
Well, I can't
pas.
find any music, so I'll comment on how the speaking sounds. I think it sounds EQ'd really well. Your gain's set properly because there's no distortion. One thing you could do is dial in the compression on these mics, because I did notice it was quiet at one point and then loud at the other point. So compression brings those two closer together. See the compression video in the course. If you already have compression on there, just dial in the threshold and be a little bit more aggressive with that compressor so there's not so much dynamic range. It'll help the people in the room and on the live stream as well to have a little bit more control with those dynamics. Dylan, what do you think about visuals?
Really, one thing I'm noticing is that the white walls are blown out, so we need to drop the exposure just a little bit, just to where they're not blown out. And then I think your skin tones should still look like a good exposure. I know it's tough when you got dark skin tones and then bright white walls, and you might not have a camera that can push very much dynamic range, the difference between the shadows and the highlights. So that's a tough balance, but just see how it looks when you drop it 1 or 2 steps. And I think your framing looks good. I like the camera angles you have. I think you could probably switch them even a little bit more often since you have so many to work with. But great job.
Awesome. Thanks for sending that in.
Got some more questions in. Our shielded drum in-house is too loud. We keep it low. This affects the gain structure for the live stream. We can't hear the drums on the live stream. How can this be fixed?
Okay, even though the drums are still too loud, you still need to set gain, as I talk about in the course, because it's not going to make them even louder in the room. What makes them loud or soft in the room is where the fader position is for that drum. So set your gain as it should be. And then for your levels, since you don't really need much in the house, maybe, let's see, I'm trying to think of how we can do this. You may want to just set it pre-fader for your drums in the live stream, like just for those drum channels. Because if your fader is like at -10 or -20 for the room, it's going to be hard to compensate for that in the live stream.
Maybe they don't
Unless
have it
it's
on a bus
post-fader.
mix at all. Maybe they're just sending
Yeah,
the same
maybe not.
mix.
But even if they do, I recommend using post-fader bus mix in most situations. But in this situations, you can set those drum channels to pre-fader for the live stream bus, and that gives you full control over how loud they are in the live stream. And that shouldn't be a problem at all, because it sounds like you're probably just keeping them low in the room, maybe not even at all. That's kind of a bummer, because so much of the depth of the drums comes through the mics.
Yeah.
Might be a good opportunity for an electronic kit, even though I rarely recommend that. But in some cases and in some rooms, it's probably the only option.
Or work with your drummer to control their playing a little bit more.
Yeah, and you could try some different sticks too, right?
Uh-huh.
Because if you switch from regular sticks to the rods, it makes a huge difference in the level of the sound. It probably drops it, I don't know, 20%, 25% or so. So I would try that. I would try different sticks, even if your drummer hates them. But it's like, yeah, drummer, play quieter, and then we can make you sound better.
And drummers, man, I tell you. We did a video about our partial shield that we just got recently, and I got so many comments on that video about how lightly he was playing for the examples in that video. Like, guys,
That's how we should be playing.
you're playing for the room.
Yeah,
You know?
you have to play for the room.
You can't just play it full out. Like, okay, maybe the drums sound better when you're smacking them really hard as opposed to just tapping them, but you can't always do that, unfortunately.
Right.
Got to play for the room.
If it ruins the mix, it ruins the mix. So it's not, even though you think the drum sounds better whenever you're really whacking it, it really doesn't sound better, because now we can't put it through the PA, and now it can't be in the live stream, and it causes all these other problems. And,
And everybody's really annoyed at
and
you.
everybody's really annoyed. Yeah.
Because that's all they hear and it hurts.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. Seriously. You can control the volume. And I think once you just like get over, I guess we're just talking to drummers right here, and they're probably not even watching. So we'll just let this go off into the universe.
We're giving the sound techs tips to talk to their drummers
Yeah,
too.
Yep. So yeah, I'm just going to stop and leave it there.
Just let them know that a lot of the mix's quality relies on them, and you need them to give you something good to work with. They're the backbone.
Yep. And I'm so serious about creating great sound for the church and not being a distraction that even if after multiple conversations the drummer's not changing, then I would just be like, okay, we're going to find a different drummer.
Or we're not going to have drums if that's the
Yeah,
case.
or we're not going to have drums, because we're not doing this. We're not going to annoy the congregation because you want to play drums loud. And it may come down to having a conversation like that. I think a lot of times we're just not direct enough in our conversation. You don't have to be mean, but you need to be clear on what the expectation is. Those are fun conversations to have, aren't they?
Yeah, I know this isn't really like what we usually talk about. We usually talk tech stuff, but that's kind of a bad attitude to have on your team too if they're not willing to change for
true.
the better of the team. I don't think you really want them on your team if they're going to act like that. So just a little tip for you.
But we don't have another drummer, Dylan.
Well, throw in some backing track drums.
It's better not to have drums than to have a drummer that's distracting everybody by how loud it is.
You can make a great sound without drums too. It's all good.
Yep. All right. That was fun. Next up,
We'll get to some more questions in a minute.
from Antoine, the Guiding Light Worship Center, looking for a cleaner sound. We have a light buzzing sound. Well, let's take a listen to that and see what's going on.
Pleasing to you, take it out of me. If it's not pleasing to you, take it out of me.
See, that's what those drummers need to be singing. Huh?
Your way. Oh, if it's not God, take it out of me, God. If it's not pleasing to you.
Okay, lead singer sounds really good. You got her dialed in. The other singers, look how far away the mic is from the guy, and then also the gal in the middle. Now the gal on the right, she has her mic in the right placement, so they need to bring their stands up to match. They need to be right in front of their mouth. My rule of thumb is their microphone should be about an inch from their mouth. And if they can't keep it like in a steady inch, then I'm okay with them just touching it to their chin and leaving it there.
And if they're going to move around, just have them hold it.
Yep, for sure. If they got to get a little sway going, hold on to your mic and keep it with you. Now, the instruments on this mic sound like they're off in the distance. Like It just sounded like they were just being picked up by these other vocal mics. So we need to bring a lot more of the direct sound from the instruments to really fill in this mix. So not sure what's going on there, but I would check your live stream mix and increase the volume of your instruments a lot in your live stream mix until it's like, so you're building your mix. You want like your bass guitar, kick drum as the foundation, and then your instruments, nice solid mix of instruments on top of that, and then your background vocals, and then your lead vocal at the very top. Always hear your lead vocal, which she was plenty loud. She sounded good. You just need to bring up everything else to fill in the gaps. I don't think I heard any reverb on this mix either, so I'll touch on that again. Add some reverb. I have a lesson in the course about reverb. If you just follow that, you're going to get great results with it. So I'll just send you back to the course on that one. All righty, Dylan, what do you think?
I think, again, we've got too much going on at the top of the frame. I think we can pan this down a little bit. And then I don't really think that banner needs to be up the whole time. If you want to throw that up there to introduce the praise and worship team, maybe just do it for like 10, 15 seconds. There we go. It goes down at some point. But it just kind of dirties up the frame to be up there for that long. And then it looks like the contrast is a little bit too high. You can see their clothing is getting kind of crushed into black. So it's also probably going to need to bring your exposure up a little bit. See if you can adjust that. Oh, now we get to see the little seal they got up there. Yeah, I like that you have that cool seal to show, but I think it just looks a little funny on the live stream. I would recommend you just kind of forget about that for that shot and pan down, focus on the person. But great job.
Awesome.
Couple recommendations for you.
Thanks for sending that in. All right, we have a question before we move along.
If looking for the correct gain meter, is -18 the same on the M32R?
Yep. On some mixers it's 0. On some mixers it's -18. Everything that's Behringer is going to be -18. But really you could just sum it all up. Regardless of what mixer you're using, you're looking for that point where the green lights meet the yellow. Whatever that number is.
Is Allen and Heath the one that's 0?
Yep. Allen and Heath is 0. Behringer is -18. Question is why? I don't know. That's how they want to do it, I guess. All right. I guess we blacked out and knocked Dylan out.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Hello? Oh, I think I know what it is. Keep talking.
But you can still hear me. You just can't see me. Did the camera go to sleep?
Gotta get a different camera in here. This camera's a little silly.
You've been talking too long. The camera went to sleep. Or I guess we're being that boring. It's like I'm out.
We had to throw a backup camera in here, and it, like, for some reason, doesn't let you override a 30-minute timeout. I forgot to get up there and tell it not to go to sleep.
All right, next up from Jason, St. Michael's Lutheran Church. I'm looking for your advice to improve our live stream audio. I feel like it's good, but it could be better. And if you have any suggestions regarding video, that would be appreciated as well. Awesome. Here we go. Wow, look at that piano. I love me a grand piano.
I think it's huge.
You are faithful, oh God.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. I was just kind of cold, so I thought I'd get down on the rug.
Lord, and that will never change. Oh, that will never change. You're my fortress.
Is that an oboe?
I think so.
You're the shelter where I am safe. You have freed me. You have called me by name. My Redeemer, my saving grace.
I think it sounds good.
Every hour,
I think it just needs some ambience, and it'd be really, really, really good.
oh, I need you, Lord, and that will never change.
I would bring the oboe down a little bit in the mix and also apply a little bit of an EQ filter to her, probably around 3 kilohertz, a little dip right there. Like set the Q value to 3, frequency to 3 kilohertz, and drop it down 3 to 6 dB. And what that's going to do is keep it from fighting with the vocal, because right now it's kind of like it's fighting for the lead spot of the sound. So bring it down at that EQ filter. I think it's going to like mesh in a lot better with what's going on, as well as the ambience like Dylan talked about. I think we need some more reverb in this mix. I hear a little bit of ambience, but it just needs a little bit more reverb combined with a room mic. If you have mics in the room picking up the audience sound and stuff like that, that's how you bring life to the mix. And it's really a delicate balance. There's been many of our live stream mixes where we had too much ambience, then we had to go back and adjust it. So finding that sweet spot, a little bit of a challenge, but you'll find it if you just keep working at it.
Dude, a little bit of hall reverb on that oboe would be really cool.
Yeah, it would.
We last Easter we did "There Is a King" by Elevation Worship, which has a trumpet in it. And we had a French horn player in our church, so we just did a French horn instead of a trumpet. And man, we slapped some hall reverb on that bad boy, and it sounded sweet.
It was awesome.
It was killer. So give that a shot. I think you'll like it.
Awesome. I want to compliment your vocal EQ. It's spot on. Those vocals sound good, they're clean and warm. It's just, they're perfect. I also want to compliment the way you're miking the grand piano, because that's hard to do to get it to sound good, and it sounds phenomenal. I love the way that it sounds. So great job. As far as the drums go, I think you're using an electronic kit there. It's kind of hard because they make them look like real kits these days, but I can tell by the cymbals. Kick drum sounded good, but I would bring the volume of the snare drum up. And if you don't have the capability of doing that at the mixer, you have to do it at the drum head unit itself. You can balance the level between all the different drums whenever you're out there at the drum head unit. So bring that snare drum up a little bit. But these are just minor things that you can do to take your mix to the next level. One last thing. I had to boost this level quite a bit over here on my end, so your live stream's a little bit on the quiet side. So I would use that precision limiter that I talk about. Let me look real quick at what mixer you're using. So you're using the Yamaha TF5 for live stream. Okay, so you won't have the precision limiter, but what you can do is you can put a compressor on the live stream aux or bus, whatever it calls it, on your mixer, and with a really high threshold, it'll work as a limiter. So you can use that same technique. You can watch the precision limiter video in the live stream course, but just use that compressor instead on your mixer, and that'll bring the level up of your live stream without it peaking. And what do you think about visuals, Dylan?
The only thing I'd recommend you figure out if you go back to the worship team, it looks like there's a window shining in on our 2 male vocalists there, and they're blown out, but everybody else is the correct exposure. So I know you probably don't want to cover up your window. That'd be a bummer because natural light is nice. But see what you can do there. Maybe see what happens if you bump the exposure down just like 1 stop, if it stops him from being blown out there in the middle. That's really the only thing that's sticking out to me. So see what you can do there.
Very nice.
All right, a few questions. Pan on my SQ7 isn't as pronounced, even when hard pan to left and right. Do I need to use another plugin to make this distinguishable in my live stream mix?
Well, that's weird.
Something's going on there, I
yeah,
bet.
if you're hard left, it should just be hard left in the live stream.
What would be going on?
Make sure that you're running your live stream in stereo all the way through. So that means you should have 2 outputs coming from your SQ going into however you have it connected to your live stream computer. And then once it comes into the live stream, let's say you're using OBS or something like that, you need to make sure the 2 outputs are panned correctly. Like one of them should be panned left, one of them should be panned right. So I imagine that's what's going on. Maybe you're just in your live stream software, one of your inputs there is just like partially panned one way or the other, so it's not giving you the full panning capabilities. So take a look at that and see if you can figure out what's going on.
On the SQ, is it stereo on 1 fader, or does it utilize 2 like the X32 does? I can't remember. 1. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
There's another one. Hold on. I'd like to know how to EQ and compress live stream. Say it's already going through a matrix with drum, vocal, room mic, groups, etc.
Well, as far as compression goes, I would just use a light compression on the live stream with a Q or with a ratio of like 4 or 5, let's say 5-to-1 ratio, and then set your threshold so that the gain reduction meter is reading like -6 dB at the loudest moments. And that'll kind of smooth things out. Be sure to use RMS compression as well and not peak compression, because it's going to give you a lot smoother response. And then on top of that, layer on a limiter after the compressor. You can usually insert that on your mixer. And that limiter is where you get the volume out of your live stream that you need to. If you're using the X32, you would use the precision limiter plugin. It usually works really great. And then you'll dial in those settings. It even has a squeeze setting where you can squeeze even just a little bit more volume out of it. But if you go overboard with that squeeze setting, it sounds squeezed. So you just have to adjust those until you get your max volume without making it sound weird.
How do I send you my live stream to review?
You become one of our students to go get access to our courses. You'll be glad that you did. And whenever you do, you'll also gain access to getting your live stream reviewed. And there are several ways to get access to our courses. You can do it monthly, just go month to month. There's no contracts here, $29 a month. Or you can save 20% if you go annual, and there's even a lifetime option where it's just one-time fee for lifetime access. So use the link in the description. Go check that out. You'll get access to Church Sound Made Simple. You'll get access to your mixer mastery course, Behringer, X32, the Wing, the SQ5, the QU. We have mastery courses for all of those. And you'll also get Room EQ Made Simple, which is really I'm most proud of that course because it makes the biggest difference if you know how to EQ your room. Used to be a strategy just for the pros. You'd have to hire somebody out with a lot of experience to come out and do that for you. But I broke it down into just like 4 simple videos and show you how to EQ your room. Man, it's going to make your room sound better, and it's going to make your live stream sound better. But you get access to all of our courses whenever you sign up at $29 a month. And you also get access to live stream reviews. That's a lot for $29.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Joshua had a follow-up. How many dB on the limiter?
You don't want to, whenever you're looking at the gain reduction on the limiter, 3 to 4 dB is probably the most you're going to be able to limit it before you start noticing it sucking in your mix. So that's a good rule of thumb there.
Alrighty, next up.
Shakira from New Light Church. Not good clear sound on the live stream. There's a loud popping feedback noise that's randomly occurring as well. All right, let's take a listen.
The first person to raise their hand and give it the correct answer will receive a point and a gift.
I did look through your live stream to try to find one with music, and I had a hard time finding one. So we'll just comment here on your
you, and those of you that can
speaking
come out
mics
on Tuesday at
I'm going to listen through here.
It's going to happen that it's the second coming of Christ, and we already know through studying the Word of God that the second coming of Christ and the rapture are 2 different events.
All right, so let me just pick a real controversial part of the message there. Anybody want to talk about end times while we're here? I did hear the buzzing that you were talking about. That's coming from an input somewhere that's causing the buzz. So you have to go through channel by channel and find out what's causing the buzz. Just mute one at a time until the buzz goes away. It could be the drum channel, could be where you play the music on for pre-service music. Find out where that is, and then whenever you find out what it is, it's most likely a cable issue. So then you start chasing down the cable from the mixer all the way there. Process of elimination. It's real fun tracking down a buzz, but it's worth the effort. So just spend some time on a Saturday at the church tracking that down, and you'll be glad that you did that. I did notice that your EQ just sounds strange on these vocal mics. So go through the course. Start with the Church Sound 101 course and go through it and apply everything that you learned there. And at the end of that course, and it won't take you too long, it's a simple course, but at the end of that, you're going to notice that your mic sounds a lot better. So, yep. What do you think, Dylan?
It's a little overexposed, so let's just drop that exposure a little bit. I think it'll look better. But framing looks good there. I like that. It's got a little bit of headroom above it, but you're showing that logo, and it's not too much. I think it looks cool that the logo's in there, so I'm fine with that.
Sweet. When you go through that course, by the way, don't be afraid to just kind of reset everything that you have and build it afresh. Some people want to try to mesh what they had with what I teach, and then they never get the result. Just start over. Like, clear the settings on the compressor, clear the settings on the EQ, and just rebuild that thing, and you'll be glad you did.
I have a question on compensation on X32. How to use proper setup if possible? Not really sure what that means.
Yeah, can you clarify your question? I'm not really sure what you're asking there.
And then Joshua, he said he didn't really speak on EQ in his question. I'll answer that for you. If you need to add EQ to the live stream mix, you're kind of just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. You need to, number one, make sure your room is EQ'd properly so that you're not having to add some crazy EQ to each channel. And then you need to do some basic EQ to each channel. And then you shouldn't really have to do any EQ to the live stream itself. I know that like in our room, we have a little bit of a darker sound going on so that it's more pleasant in the room. So I think we have a high shelving filter on our live stream mix in the highs.
We used to. I used to do that to compensate for the quality loss in the upper frequencies whenever it goes to like Facebook Live or something like that. There's kind of a, I like it and I don't like it at the same time, so I could go with or without it.
It's going to add a little bit more presence to the highs, though, isn't it?
A little shine, yeah.
A little more shine. But did I answer that good? You like that? Okay.
Yeah, we don't have, there's no EQ on our live stream bus, like the overall live stream. No EQ, because when you have your room EQ'd correctly, then you're EQing your channels correctly in a way that sounds both good in the room and on the live stream. But what happens a lot of times is that there's no room EQ. Like your room EQ is whenever you put EQ on the main mix to it's like a filter before it hits your room, because the room colors the sound. And so you need to send your sound through a filter so that it hits the room correctly. And if you don't do that, then you're compensating for everything wrong in your room by putting EQ on specific channels. And then that ruins the live stream mix because the live stream isn't in that room. You see what I'm saying? So if you put the room EQ, get the room EQ right, then your channel EQ is right for both the live stream and the room. It's wonderful.
Benjamin, this is not every Wednesday. It's usually every second Tuesday, once a month. Been a wild month this month, so we're a little late on this one. But the next one will be in 2 weeks on the second Tuesday, which is the 11th of March. Should I get a self-starter or a team plan?
I think that everybody should get a team plan because it gets you access for 10 users, and then you can get your whole team on the same page, because it would be quite a travesty for you to get it down and then the rest of your team to come in and do it differently. Because one of the biggest complaints is church sound is a lack of consistency. Dylan comes in and mixes one day, I come in and mix the next day, and it doesn't sound anything the same. Dylan mixes it real loud and obnoxious, Cade mixes it like perfect.
Sounds about right.
I'm just playing. But the team license just gets everybody on the same page. Everybody gets their own account so they can track their own progress through the course. And as a team admin, you get to see their progress through the course. You can see if they actually watched that video. And you can even drop notes on each video that are specific to your church. And so that's a benefit of the team license as well. So go for team.
I mean, if you wanted to be the kind of person that just gets a starter and shares the login with everybody, you could do that, but then you can't track how far everybody is into the course. And that's pretty valuable because there's going to be people that going to be like, oh yeah, I'm watching them, and they probably ain't. So it's nice to see that they actually are and how far they are in it.
Yep. All right, let's keep going. Next up from Nicholas, Clarence Global Methodist Church. Just started to reset the entire mix for the in-house and streaming using your courses. Awesome. See, he's doing it. All right.
By the way, that link is in the description. Someone was asking where they go to get that.
Yep. Or just go to collaborateworship.com. All right, here we go. Let's take a listen to this. Look at that organ back there.
That's pretty sweet.
I wonder how much it costs to put one of those in.
A lot.
All right, so we got a choir, and I think it's the organ that's playing. Probably just being picked up by the choir mics. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because we got a band going here. Where is this tambourine?
That's what I was wondering. Is that a congregant?
He's in the drum kit?
Must be. It's on time.
The guy behind the congos, maybe?
Yeah.
All right, we need more bass guitar in this mix.
Love the tambourine, but probably a little less of it.
Yep, quite a bit less of the tambourine. More acoustic guitar. A little bit. Vocals sound good. They sound a little bit on the thin side to me, so I would bring a little bit of those lows back into them if you're taking it out. Low cut filter is probably fine. You probably have that set around 180 hertz, which is fine. But if you're using that low shelving filter technique that I talked about, bring that up a little bit on those females to bring a little bit more warmth back to them. But they may just have a soprano voice, and that's just all the warmth you're going to get from them. And if that's the case, it is what it is.
Everything's kind of boxy. What do you think that is?
The piano.
The acoustic was pretty boxy too.
The piano and the snare drum are kind of messing with the mix, and I think just kind of making the overall thing sound boxy. To me, the snare drum sounds like the mic is not close enough to the snare. So take a look at the position of that snare drum mic. It should be like an inch off the head at the most, like pointed right towards the center of the head, really close to it. And then you need to add an EQ filter to that snare drum at around 500 hertz. And with a Q value of like 3, and then cut it like almost low as it'll go. And that'll take the boxy sound out of the snare drum. Those two things going to make your snare drum sound a lot better. And then on the piano, it sounds like it's just a little bit out of tune. It just sounds funny. So it needs to be mic'd better too. I'm not like an expert at miking pianos, but I know somebody who is. So if you will send me an email or reach out to me on Slack and just let me know. I'm the one who needs to fix my piano, my baby grand, and I'll forward you that information because it's quite a bit of info, but you'll want to know it.
Those windows in the background are cool.
They are cool.
And the wood too. That's some beautiful wood. Visually, I think you might just want to work on fine-tuning the white balance between all the cameras a little bit better. They're all just a little bit different. They're not like crazy off or anything, but I think they could use a little more tuning. And then I'd like to help you find a solution for those lower third lyrics to where you don't have that transparent background on it, because that's taking up a lot of the frame, and I don't think it looks the greatest. There's probably a solution we can come up with. If you just message me in Slack, if you're interested in working on that, we can get that going.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sending that in. I see that somebody asked, is Team enough for a live stream review? Yeah, regardless of what plan you pick, you're going to get your live stream reviewed. You get access to that. Benjamin asked, what are your thoughts on an audio interface for the live stream sound, or is it better to connect straight from the X32? So what the X32, the USB on the back of the X32 is an audio interface. It's just the X32's audio interface. I don't think you need an external unless you're using that for somewhere else. Like in our case, we like to record tracks. And so when we were using the X32, we're using the Wing now, but when we were using the X32, we would have the X32's audio interface plugged into one computer, but we had an audio interface, like a Scarlett audio interface for the live stream computer, because you can't plug the same interface into two computers. So that would be a reason to use an interface, but if you don't have that same reason, then just use the X32s and save yourself some money.
And if you do need one, the Scarlett 2i2 is a great option. It's affordable and it sounds good.
Yep. So it just all depends what your setup is, what your requirements are.
Is a drive rack mandatory for great sounds, or are there other workarounds?
I don't use a drive rack ever. I just EQ my room, which is basically what the drive rack is doing automatically. And I know it also eliminates feedback for you automatically. But if you have your room EQ'd correctly and things dialed in, you don't really have a feedback problem. So anywhere I mix, if they have a drive rack, I bypass it because I don't want anything being done automatically for me. I want to have the control of it.
Chad says, I've used a lot of your recommendations watching these videos. I just have to translate X32 terminology to Soundcraft SI. Thanks for what y'all do.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That Soundcraft, I'll tell you.
Time to upgrade. And when you upgrade to the Wing. That's our recommendation.
John said he's going to get him a team plan.
Sweet. Thanks, John.
Excited to have you.
We are. All right, next up from Joe, we got 4 more to go here. Next up from Joe, this is from Tabernacle Baptist Church. He wants a more balanced sound and some camera tips as well. So let's take a look at this.
You don't like snow, but I would love some. I know it's just calling for rain, but man, it'd be absolutely wonderful, I think. And I was talking to Brother Thomas. He said he don't like snow, and
He saved my soul. Oh, bless his name. I'll never forget the day he came. He makes me glad when I'm sad. He's the dearest friend I ever had. Oh, sinner, come.
Awesome.
I love it. It's a style you don't see very often.
I know,
anymore.
I love it. All right, so the main thing here is we're getting too much ambient noise through your choir mics or whatever you're using to pick up the choir. It's just overwhelming any of the direct sound. So we need more direct sound, like from your lead vocal. I need to hear him more directly. And the solution to that would be to bring down the choir mics and then bring up his mic a little bit, and you could bring up the instruments as well. But right now you do have direct sound in there. It's just getting overwhelmed by whatever that, I'm assuming it's choir mics. So the choir mics need to come down. You may even check the placement of the choir mics. Let me see if I have another camera shot here so I can see how those are. Where are the choir mics? I see them hanging. Yeah, they're about as close as you can get them. So that positioning there is good. Let me listen right here. It looks like it's just the choir here.
Sins are forgiven because, yes, I've been washed by the blood.
If you don't have a mic on the piano, I would put one on it. It's hard to tell. It's probably enclosed if it is. But I could use some more direct sound from that. If there's already a mic on it, just bring the mic up a little bit. So the whole goal here is just to get a better balance between your choir mics and the direct inputs. And you're going to notice the sound cleaning up and becoming a lot better. What do you think, Dylan?
I think it looks good. I think you could just bump the exposure up a little bit. It's a little on the dark side. I know that window's going to be blown out if you do that, but I think it's already blown out anyway. So might as well just get those skin tones looking nice and clean and not muddy from being over or underexposed, and rock and roll with that. Try it out and let me know what you think.
Nice. Thanks for sending that in. I enjoyed that. It's not a style of music that you hear very often anymore.
It's fun. I'm using a QU32 mixer, and the sound in-house is okay, but live is very low. How do we get some more volume out of the live stream?
This is most likely an imbalance with the level on your amps. I'm going to guess that your lead vocal percent, so the loudest thing in the mix, I'm going to guess it's not at 0 dB as far as the fader goes. And that's an indicator that there's a problem, because your lead vocal should be somewhere around 0. It may be a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but somewhere around that spot. And that's how you know you have everything configured correctly. And your main fader for your main mix should also be at 0. I go to a lot of churches where that's like down at -10 or -20. And if that's the case, you're going to have a problem with your live stream volume, because you're killing the volume everywhere. And how you overcome that is you make an adjustment at your amps, or maybe your speakers are powered. If they're powered, they have the volume knob on the back of the speaker. If they're not powered, the volume knob is on the amp somewhere, wherever it's plugged in, sometimes in a rack behind the stage or something like that. You bring down the level of the amp until you can get that main fader at 0 and your lead vocal at 0, and that's the happy place. Some people think that the amp should be turned all the way up. Actually, a lot of people think that, but I mean, if that's the case, why is there a volume knob on the amp? The volume knob on the amp is so that you can get that dialed in, so that your mixer is sending a great signal to the amp, and then you're adjusting how loud you want it in the room right there at the amp. So take some time to get that correct, and then you're going to notice that your live stream volume is all fixed up.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, next up from David from Stafford Crossing Community Church. Live stream audio is flat and dull. Can't quite get the levels right with our post-fader bus mix. The band's at decent volume, but the pastor's always way too quiet, even though we have him up in the mix. All right, let's take a listen, see what we got going on here. Pulling up your live stream now. I'm going to pull up your most recent, not the upcoming, because that doesn't help us out. Let's see here. I think we found it. And here we go.
Come lay them down at the foot of the cross. Jesus is waiting. God so loved the world.
be to our great God. Hey, before
Back
being
up a
seated,
little
we just-
bit.
For the wonders of his love, his amazing love.
For God so loved the world that he gave us his one and only Son to save. For God so loved the world that he gave us his one and only Son.
You have a good start here. I'm going to give you a couple of things that I want you to focus on and take your live stream sound to the next level. And the first one is compression. There's too much dynamic range in this mix, especially with the vocals. So take some time to get the compression dialed in on each individual channel. Go through the compression videos in the course, and it'll walk you through how to do that. If you are in the consistent mixing made simple course, go through that, and for each instrument, it'll walk you through not just compression, but EQ and all those things. But I want you to specifically focus on compression before you resubmit this again. And then the second thing is reverb. This mix is really dry, so there's not a lot of life to it. It just sounds kind of like sounds kind of dead without reverb. So let's add the reverb in there. So go through the reverb courses in the reverb lessons in the course and get that added to your live stream as well. You're going to notice a huge difference with just those two things. And I know you kind of feel like the post fader thing is probably not what's working for you, but I think the compression is actually the thing that's causing the problem here. So compression first, reverb second, resubmit it next month, and we'll go from there. Thanks for sending this in. Dylan, what do you think about visuals?
You know, it's got a warm look to it, but I kind of like it. It kind of fits. It's definitely white balanced on the warm side, but I'm not hating it. I like it. Framing looks good for this shot. You got your little background elements in the frame, which is cool. Was this just one camera angle? Did you see any more?
Let me see here. Yeah, it looks like there's just a wider one maybe.
Is there one from the side? Is that what I saw? Yeah, one more from the side. I would see if you can zoom one of those in more. They're a little close in framing. Like there's not much changing between the two. They're kind of just moving from center to side. See if that's an option for you.
Oh, wait, let me listen to the pastor.
The image of God, bearing the image of God, serving in different roles, but equally valuable in the
Of grace. And more than I've asked for, more than I.
and to dust you shall return. So here's this relationship with creation. Now,
I don't feel like you mentioned that the pastor's mic was way quieter than the music. I didn't get that whenever I just listened to it. Maybe just a hair quieter, but I think you have it dialed in. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, just one more thing. His forehead is blown out. So either drop your exposure or I would say you could probably drop your exposure and decrease your contrast a little bit.
Or send him to the tanning bed.
Or you can get him some de-shine powder.
I'm just playing.
we have to de-shine Cade's forehead every time we shoot a video because he's oily. So that's an option too.
Yep.
What is that stuff? Is it just like a mineral powder?
Yeah.
You get it at makeup stores or something?
I ordered it on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yep.
You don't want to be seen in a makeup store.
No.
Send your
Won't
wife.
find
to
me
get
there.
some.
Yeah.
Just
She'll
ask
go-
your wife. She'll get you some.
All righty. Let's see here. I think we have a couple more, 2 more up, and then we'll be done. This one's from Jesus. Templo Cristiano Rios de Agua Viva. It doesn't sound as clear. It feels like the vocal doesn't have enough presence and clashes with the guitars. All right, pulling it up here on the Facebook, which while we pull this up, Dylan, you may tell everybody what's going to happen on Facebook here pretty soon if it hasn't happened already.
I think it's happened already. You might have seen they are going to start deleting live streams after 30 days now. So if you rely on Facebook to archive your live streams for people to go back and watch, you're going to want to switch to YouTube or something because you ain't going to be able to do that anymore.
Good thing to know.
There you go.
All right, let's take a listen.
Nadie como tú, porque no hay nadie como tú, Señor. Tú reinarás por siempre y siempre. Tú
right. Your drums sound good. Good job mixing those drums. That's awesome. Tom sounded good too. Lead vocal. She sounds too thin. So take a look at your EQ on her and bring some warmth back to her. Bring some of those low mids back into her vocal to warm it up. And she may even need a little bit of the highs shaved off of her. Some people just have a sharper voice than others, and this may be one of those cases. If that's the case, it's probably somewhere between 2 and 4 kilohertz. I would put a PEQ filter with Q value of 4, go negative 6 dB and just kind of scrub through 2 kilohertz to 4 kilohertz and find out where that is and smooth her out a little bit. Same thing with the electric guitar. I noticed you had it down in the mix so it didn't clash with the vocal. I would have liked to have a little bit more electric guitar in that song specifically. But if you're having a clashing problem whenever you bring the level up, you can apply an EQ filter to your electric guitar somewhere in that same range. 2 to 5 kilohertz is where it's going to clash with the vocal. So shave that out a little bit on the electric guitar. It'll warm up the guitar and keep it out of the way of the vocals.
2 things here visually. Let's pan that camera down so we don't see so much of the ceiling. Ideally, I wouldn't want to see that ceiling fan, but I think you're going to probably want to keep your TV in the shot so you have the lyrics, because it'd look kind of weird to frame it to where half the TV is getting cut off. And then it looks like your focus on your camera is hunting, so you probably have it on autofocus. I'd recommend you to put it on manual focus so that's not hunting in and out like it is. And, it's a little bit on the warm side too. A little bit on the warm and green. So see if you can fine tune that white balance a little bit. And then I think it's going to be looking a lot better.
Nice. One last thing, I noticed that one of the guitars was out of tune a little bit. So make sure you develop a culture within your team that they always tune before service starts. And then even beyond that, they're always listening so that if their guitar goes out of tune in the middle of songs or something like that, they take whatever opportunity they have between songs to tune it up again. Any tuning tips?
On acoustic guitar more than electric, you have to keep in mind that depending on how cold or warm your room is, let's say like we finish rehearsal and then we have 30 minutes before our service starts, my acoustic guitar's sitting there for 30 minutes away from my body heat when it was just on my body for all of rehearsal. So now it's getting much colder, which would, I think, make it sharper. And so it might be good to just go up 5 minutes before your service is going to start and let that guitar warm back up with your body heat, and make sure you tune at the end of that 5 minutes before you start playing again. Something to consider.
Got to snuggle your acoustic, huh?
Got to snuggle it. It's not as bad as like a brass instrument. I remember that from marching band. You'd go play out in the cold, and that bad boy would be sharp.
Yep. Oh, the good old days.
Good old days.
All right, so we have Chris Comstock is the last one here from New Covenant Church. Just looking for help with consistent sound.
And Jesus,
Yeah, we've seen them a few times.
through the fire, you were right there beside me, and you were always on time. You were always, always, always on time. You were always, always, always on time.
Awesome. We're going to listen to a different song.
The strength of my heart, forever my God, your love is enough.
His drums just need some more beef.
Your love is enough, God. We don't need anything else.
I think that's just a level thing. Bring the kick drum up a lot. Listening for it specifically now.
Does it sound like they have an aggressive low cut on the drums? Like too much? I feel like there's some low frequencies that aren't there at all.
Yeah, we're kind of missing. Yeah, so check the lows on your live stream overall. Like it kind of sounds like we're missing somewhere. Make sure there's no low cut filter on your live stream bus at all. And also don't shave any of the lows off at all with any kind of filter on your live stream bus specifically. Then look at your drum set. I see you're using, it looks like an electronic set. And it's kind of sounded like one too, so, but he's still in a cage. That's probably for the cymbals. Good little hybrid. No, I see mics on it, so it's not an electric kit. Great job mixing the pieces. The pieces sound good. They just need a little bit more depth to them. So go through each drum mic and adjust your low cut filter. It's okay to have a low cut like on the toms and stuff like that, but I think you might have it set a little bit too high. So bring it down until you get like that beef out of the toms. And on the kick drum, if you have a low cut there, I'll just take the kick drum off. Take the low cut off of the kick drum if that's the case. Yep, and then bring those drums just up a little bit in the mix. Well, I just jumped right into like things to make this better, but I didn't comment on the fact that it sounds really good, by the way. So you're doing a great job with this mix.
It's to the point where it sounds good, and then we're just getting really nitpicky to make it like that next level.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I did notice too is that I'm having to boost my level a lot here, so your live stream is a little bit on the quiet side. So adjust your. Let me look and see what mixture you're using. 1 second. You're using the Wing. Awesome. So adjust your limiter that you have plugged into that live stream bus to get a little bit more volume out of it. You can increase the input gain on that limiter. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's a funny question. I don't know what his name is. It's like a handle instead of a name. How do you convince the worship engineers that they're not very good when you have experience but aren't on the team?
Sounds like a good time to be had.
Well, that's a loaded question because in a way it's not really your place, especially if you're not the leader. But I mean, there are some people that aren't very good and just don't know it, and nobody's been willing to tell them. I get both sides of that.
Yeah. So if you're the leader, like let's say you're the worship leader and you're the one that's in charge of how it sounds, then I think that's a time to either say, I have this training for you and I want you to mix this way from now on. Give them some time to learn that and get that going, but also give them the expectation that if you don't do this, then we're going to find somebody else to mix. And I know churches have a hard time with that mindset in particular. It sounds a little harsh, but I mean, if people aren't going to be a team player, then we'll find somewhere else for you to serve, or I don't know, this just isn't your thing. We've got to learn to be more honest in the church with each other, because the last thing I want to do, like me personally, I don't want to spend my life doing something that I think I'm good at that nobody's enjoying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would much rather somebody tell me and hurt my feelings, and maybe I get mad at them for a while and then just figure it out later on, than just not know. It's not fun in the moment when somebody's telling you that. But so if you're the leader, go address it. Get bold and go address it. If you're not the leader, maybe you should become this person's friend. Like, kind of resolve the frustrations that you have with them. Like, don't go into this frustrated, but be like, I want to become your friend so we can start to talk about these things. And then maybe you can help them that way.
Don't go into it attacking their skill.
Yeah.
And if you're not the leader and they're not the leader and you know who their leader is, maybe just like go talk to them and say, hey, I found this training. I think it'd really help the sound team out. You might want to check into it.
Yeah, for sure. That's what the training's there for. Our whole goal here at Collaborate Worship is to make it simple. Church sound made simple. We spent 10 plus years learning it the hard way. Like, how do you take what the big churches are doing and apply this in a small setting to those of us who are using an X32 and things like that? We put in all the hard work and then simplified it for you. Like, we shed off all the things that don't make much of a difference in your mix and said, here's the things that you need to focus on. Because the reality is, most of us don't have a lot of time. We're volunteering, but we do want to improve our skill. So that's what Collaborate Worship is all about. So go get access to the training. Use the link in the description. For as low as $29 a month, you'll get access to all of our audio courses. And it's just month to month. There's no contract. So you can jump in and even jump out and jump back in later on if you want to, however you want to do that. There's also a yearly plan that gets you a discount and a lifetime option as well. So go check that out using the link in the description. And included with all that is you get your live stream reviewed by us so that we can help you dial it in personally for your specific situation. And we love to do that.
Side note, we got a free cheat sheet in the description. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already.
Yep.
That was our last one, right?
Yep.
Well, we made it through.
Yeah. So thanks for sending these in, guys. It's always great to help you take your sound to the next level. Stick with us and make those changes. Submit them again next month, and we can just keep this going.
Thanks for all the questions today, too. You guys were very engaging this morning.
Yeah.
Maybe morning's our new thing. Instead of 3 p.m., we'll do 10 a.m. from now on.
Maybe so.
We did 10 a.m. because I saw a metric on YouTube that said most of our audience is on YouTube at 10 a.m., so we thought we'd try it out.
Yeah.
Plus, we got more energy.
For sure. Well, why don't you give them a special treat before we get off here and tell them what YouTube videos are coming up next? What are we dropping soon?
Man, we've got a video on our lobby speakers. We've got, man, you put me on the spot now. I can't remember. Let me just pull up the list here. Didn't it? You remember any?
We kept blowing a sound bar in our lobby and decided that wasn't the solution anymore. So we fixed that, and we've got a video coming telling you how that panned out.
We've got a video that's the culmination of just all the things we've learned to make drums sound good. It's kind of like a little master class on drums. And then we got a video about how to balance your mix so that it's not sounding unbalanced. All kinds of good stuff. I haven't shot it yet because there's still a few more things I need to do, but our new live stream setup, we got 2 new cameras, a new switcher, a new encoder. You probably saw that if you saw our tech tour update, but I'm going to do a full video on that. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a lot of work, but be looking out for that one.
So subscribe
so
you don't miss a video when it comes out. Grab that cheat sheet because that gets you on our email list too, and you want to be on our email list because we send out a lot of great stuff via email. Anyway, have a great day, have a great night wherever you are. We will see you again soon.
See y'all.
Bye.